Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dairy Signal. We're so happy you've joined us here today to learn about an FSA update. So what you'll be hearing, the latest on the Farm Service Agency programs, policies and deadlines, as well as to learn how to use and stay informed of available resources. Today, we have the pleasure of talking with Sandy Chalmers, State Executive Director with USDA Wisconsin Farm Service Agency. So welcome, Sandy. Thank you so much for being here today with us. And we'll get right into the presentation. And for those that are watching and listening, feel free to ask any and all of your questions while we have Sandy with us here for the next half hour to 40 minutes or so. So, Sandy, with that, take it away.
Well, thank you, Emily. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk directly to dairy producers. It's always a real pleasure. And I was at the PDP business conference a couple of weeks ago and was asked to present on what's new at FSA. And so often producers, they don't want a walkthrough of every program that FSA has. They want to know, what do I need to know right now and what's coming? First thing I wanted to talk about before we get into what's new at FSA is the weather. The weather incident that we just had, which really impacted dairy producers, of course, in Wisconsin, because we were kind of in the crosshairs of that storm, but also in Minnesota, Iowa, and Michigan to a degree. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some opportunities for producers to be aware of after this blizzard, and also throughout the year whenever we have weather events, things that producers should know from an FSA point of view. We do have some livestock assistance programs available. First one is the Livestock Indemnity Program, which covers livestock deaths. And we have had a few reports of dairy and beef animals both being impacted by the storm. Not only livestock deaths are covered, but also a loss from selling an injured animal at a reduced price at market. And the program pays 75% of the market value. So that's program number one. The other program is called ELAP, which compensates producers for feed and grazing losses. Obviously, grazing would not be an issue right now, but feed certainly could be. And it also pays for things like equipment rental fees for snow removal if you had to rent something to move that snow around. So those are the two basic programs. And producers often ask me, what do I need to do to document? And they get pretty stressed about, keeping the right kinds of records to present to FSA when it comes to applying for the compensation for the livestock deaths or injuries. The basic rule is the documentation needs to be verifiable and reliable, and that's actually more flexible than you might think. So for a livestock death, things like vet records, private insurance documents, a date stamped photo would be adequate, rendering truck receipts, and any kind of producer records that you took at the time of the event, with a date. So we know that those were your contemporaneous records made at the time. For injured livestock sold at a reduced price, again, just about any type of record, like the livestock type, weight range, the sales price. It could be a sales receipt from the auction, insurance documents, or a processing plant receipt, something like that. We've also had some building damage reported, that like hoop houses down or freestall barn damage. Just take some photos of that, or a copy of what you submit to your insurance company would be adequate for that. FSA does have emergency loans available after this blizzard and any other major weather event. And it's basically a low interest loan for rebuilding, repairing. The current interest rate on that is 3.75%. So favorable interest rates and favorable terms. And, Congress has incentivized this program to help producers rebuild and repair after a storm.
Well, thanks so much, Sandy, for that information. Very timely. We're going to take a brief pause. Sandy, if you want to try to exit out of your PowerPoint and go back into it, and we'll see if we can get the technology working. And meanwhile, while Sandy does that, I'm going to talk about real quickly an upcoming professional dairy producers workshop we have called the Smart Dairy Workshop. Where you're going to learn all about how to enhance your herd management with artificial intelligence. So this program is coming up very quickly in less than a month. On April 15th, we will be up in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. And on April 16th, we will be in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. And it's all about how you're going to turn your dairy data into actionable intelligence. And we'll have Dr. Jeffrey Bewley as well as Neil Hostins with us as our presenters. So again, April 15th and April 16th, the PDP Smart Dairy Workshop. I wanted to call that to your attention while we got our technology working, which I see we did. So Sandy, I'll turn it right back over to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Lord. So this now is my presentation from the business conference, focusing on what's new at FSA, what producers need to know right now. Here's something that's new at FSA. We're really emphasizing modernizing our services for producers. And honestly, we have so many tech-savvy producers now, just like the general public. And FSA has been so paper-based for so many years. There's a real emphasis from the secretary on down to me to get these services up and running for producers. And one of those examples are farmer-friendly online services. So if you want to make a trip to the office and sign a paper form, that's absolutely fine. And we're happy to serve you in the office. But if you want to sit in the cab of your truck or on your tractor and sign a form, that's okay too. And, the goal is to save farmers time. And I don't know of many people who are busier than farmers, especially dairy farmers. So there's a real time-saving advantage here as we roll more and more of these programs out. We'll also touch on the current signups underway, the Farmer Bridge Assistance and the Supplemental Disaster Relief Program, and then some updates on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that passed this summer, last summer, that we're implementing over time. So let's talk about online applications first. This is something that we previewed with the recently announced Farmer Bridge program. And I tell you, the results were pretty phenomenal. I was actually surprised at how many producers quickly set up an account and were able to access their Farmer Bridge Assistance application online. Here in Wisconsin, in the early days, we had about 20% of the applications come in from an online platform. Producers told me that they logged in first thing Monday morning, the first day of the sign up. Their application was right there on their phone. It was a quick review and click to sign. And then by Thursday, their payment was in their bank account. So 20% the first time, the first program this was available for, that's pretty phenomenal. So again, the Wisconsin results for this program were, we had $70 million out the door at the end of the first week. And by the end of the second week, we had $120 million. So just an example of what's possible when producers can access these programs online. Producers who want to take advantage of these opportunities, unfortunately, it's one of those things that it takes a lot longer to explain than it does to just go online and do it. The quick explanation here is that the federal government has an online verification tool called login.gov, and that's something that protects almost all federal government accounts, like your Social Security account, your Veterans Affairs account, if you have Customs and Border Control clearance, like a passport, things like that. It's all included under this login.gov tool. And more people have access to that than may know it. So the first thing to do is to go to login.gov and set up an account there. It's a pretty simple process where you upload a photo of the front and back of your driver's license or your passport, and then take a selfie of yourself, and then you're done. Farmers.gov, many farmers also have that account as well. If you don't, go to farmers.gov and set it up. It's very simple, steps you through the process. You'll be asked to link the two accounts, which is another, fairly simple process. It took me 5 minutes, I would say 5 to 7 minutes to get through this and set up. So I encourage everybody who's interested in doing business with FSA online to just get this done. Wouldn't take you more than 10 minutes, and then you're ready to go. The next thing I want to preview is that we're looking at making acreage reporting available online, which that's another really paper-based process. I'm sure you've gone through that, Emily, with your corn and bean acres. And the process usually is, the producer takes a paper map of a tract and writes out what is planted where and the planting date, intended use, hands it back to FSA. The ladies in the office load that into our system, and then the farmer certifies and signs it. It's very cumbersome, very time consuming for everybody, and it almost always requires a trip to the office at some point. So I saw the secretary announce that she intends to roll this out in the spring sometime. So it may be available sooner than you know. So that's something you can watch for an announcement on. So moving into what's going on now at FSA, first of all is the Farmer Bridge Assistance, which I mentioned in connection with the online application process. I just wanted to highlight that the deadline here is April 17th. So don't miss that. This is a program that rolled out, I believe, on February 23rd and is already wrapping up on the 17th. So a quick turnaround there. To date, we've gotten about $196 million out to Wisconsin producers. This was the program that was, excuse me, $11 billion, focusing on row crop producers. And this was an ad hoc program set up by USDA, recognizing the Farm Bill was delayed and passed, the ARC PLC provisions were passed in July and will not take effect until 2026 payment for the 2025 crop year. So this kind of fills the gap and basically makes available what would have gone to producers if the Farm Bill had been passed earlier. So again, this assistance is extremely streamlined. Producers receive pre-filled applications. Your options are to use the farmers.gov process that I just went through. Some producers say, why can't I have the application emailed to me? Well, you can. You can, and that's another really easy way to get your FSA work done. Just call your local county office or email and ask to have a form sent through box. And that's a tool that works kind of like DocuSign, which many people are familiar with. And the application comes to you in an email, you click sign, it automatically flows back to the county office for approval, and you're given an opportunity to download a copy of your application if you want to keep a copy. And of course, you can always stop by your FSA office. We love to see our producers. If you're not interested in this technology stuff, that is fine. We'll always be there for our farmers who drop in. I will say our offices have been super busy lately on a number of projects. It's always a good idea to call before you drop in, and that gives us an opportunity excuse me, to have your application ready to go. So we just like to be prepared and help you make best use of your time. Most of our payments, as you might expect, have gone to corn, soybeans, and wheat. We've made payments on oats and barley, of course, but this is a reminder of the payment rates on this program. So there are the payment rates for the Farmer Bridge. A program that I wanted to preview is the Assistance for Specialty Crop Farmers for producers that also grow snap beans or green peas, sweet corn, things like that. Those crops will be covered under this program. It's $1 billion for specialty crops. The deadline was March 13th to report 2025 acres, and the payment rates and sign-up details will be coming soon. And everybody wants to know what the payment rates will be. That just has not been announced yet. Another program we now have underway is the Supplemental Disaster Relief Program. The deadline for this program is April 28th. This was a program authorized by Congress at the end of December 2024, and it covers eligible losses in 23 and 24. And when you think about those years, there were hurricanes. There was extensive drought in the Great Plains states. Wisconsin didn't have anything to match those level of disasters, but 23 was a dry year and 24 was a wet year. So we did have some crop losses here in the state. Stage one of this program covered insured losses, and producers who had insurance payments on crops for either of those 2 years received a pre-filled form to sign. And so that part of the program is pretty much done. Stage two covered shallow losses, which I believe was the first time FSA had covered shallow losses. In other words, losses incurred that were not severe enough to merit an insurance payment on. So we will cover those. Also uninsured losses. So that's a big unknown, what's still out there. And then quality losses. And that is the most complex part of this program to administer, as you might expect, because the documentation for every crop will be different. So if you have suffered shallow losses, uninsured losses, or especially quality losses in 23 or 24, I do recommend that you call your office and set up an appointment to go through your losses so we can work through that with you. Something that we've been working on since it was passed in July is implementing the provisions of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which included a lot of the Farm Bill provisions that we've been waiting for. First, I wanted to just talk a little bit about the improvements to the dairy margin coverage program. Producers had an opportunity to put an additional 1,000,000 pounds in tier 1 with the less expensive premiums. And most importantly, producers were allowed to finally update their production history. So that's something that people had been asking for many, many years. So they finally had the opportunity to do that. The deadline has passed to sign up for that program, and we did have very good participation. We're still getting people signed up, even though the deadline has passed. But we had about 3,300 producers so far sign up for the program, and most did take advantage of the higher coverage level, the 950 coverage level. I would say about 80% of producers locked in their coverage for 6 years and took advantage of that discount on locking in. And about 20% decided to use the annual coverage instead. And, they like that flexibility on deciding whether to cover their milk production or not. Two really big issues that I'm asked about a lot that are now in progress, provisions again from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, are the changes to FSA payment limitation provisions. The statute allows pass-throughs to get more than one payment limit, and we're still waiting for that regulation to be published with all the details on how the statute is interpreted. And I know people are getting antsy about that, but it's in your best interest to wait until the regulation is published and you have all the details, and your attorneys can work with you and have all the information that they need to know on how the how the payment limit will be interpreted by FSA. The other big one is ARC PLC, and I touched earlier on the increased reference prices, which will make a huge difference to grain producers here when they get their payment on their 2025 crop. And then Congress also gave producers the opportunity to get 30 million additional base acres, and that's 30 million acres across the country. People are, of course, very interested in how will I get additional base, and how is that going to work? Right now, FSA offices are doing some of the behind the scenes legwork on that, making sure that all the information is there for producers to use when they make that decision or election. We don't know yet exactly the timing of when producers will be notified of their options, but I think early summer is very likely. So that's something to be watching for. How the process will work for producers, we just don't know yet. And we will communicate with you on this when the time comes. But just a heads up that yes, we are working on it and it's coming. I'll touch briefly on farm loan programs because I do get questions about that from time to time. And I'm looking at my slide, and I want you to know that I borrowed the slide deck from Oklahoma, if anyone's wondering about all the beef cows. First of all, FSA has a loan program that it focuses on beginning farmers primarily. And in Wisconsin, about half of our loans do go to beginning farmers and ranchers. It's intended to be a temporary source of credit to help farmers either get started or get through a tough patch. We don't compete with banks, but we do partner with banks. And I heard an interesting statistic that 25% of all farmers in America have access an FSA loan at some point in their career. So it's very common, especially so many people I've talked to got their start with an FSA loan, and it's there if you need it. I mean, that's the important thing. Just running through this slide really quickly, we have direct loans where we work directly with a producer, make the loan directly. Excuse me, ownership loans with a maximum of $600,000. Current rate is 5.75%. A joint financing option, which is actually very popular, where we work directly with a bank. It's usually 50% FSA financing, 50% provided by a commercial lender. And that 3.75% interest rate is an obvious draw there. These loans can be used to purchase land, construct, modernize facilities, and for soil and water conservation projects. The other one to keep an eye on is operating loans. The terms there are from 1 to 7 years. The current rate is 4.75%. And your typical operating purposes, purchasing livestock, financing your inputs, refinancing farm debts, and minor real estate improvements.
Sandy, I have a quick question on, oh, do you have more loans? But if you go back to the last slide, when was the last time that the total amount of like that FSA will loan out was updated? I'm just thinking of increased land costs, and obviously building costs and all of that has gone up in the last few years. When was the last time those numbers were updated? And do you see a potential increase in the future for those loan amounts?
Yes. The 2018 Farm Bill was the last time those limits were looked at. And it made a huge difference for everyone. And now we're in a situation where those loan limits are outdated. You called it there. And Congress now is considering what they call Farm Bill 2.0, looking at the provisions that were not included in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And they're looking at the farm loan limits right now. So, because they need to keep pace with the cost of farming, or it becomes kind of irrelevant, right? Yep. So Congress is considering that right now, and hopefully they'll get a bill to the floor soon. This is something that I hear about a lot.
Okay, good to know. Yes. Thank you for that information.
Yes. So the guaranteed loan programs are where the bank makes the loan, FSA provides a guarantee. So the interest rates are set by the bank. A guaranteed operating loan, you can see the loan limits on the guarantees are much higher. And FSA in Wisconsin has the largest guaranteed loan portfolio in the country. And I do think that is because of dairy and the capital costs required to run a dairy operation. So we do guaranteed operating and ownership loans. mirroring the purposes of the direct loans.
And Sandy, we actually had a question come in on guaranteed loans. Was there an increase to the guaranteed loan limit in 2026? And obviously you had the different loans already, the rates on there. But the question, was there an increase recently on that?
That's something else Congress is looking at. If I remember correctly, they're looking at like $3.5 million on a guarantee. And it's a little bit different between ownership and operating, but a significant increase. And then the guaranteed loan limits are indexed to inflation. So, they do change on a yearly basis, where the direct loan limits do not currently.
Thank you.
So just some ways to stay in touch. People are always afraid that they're missing something, and it's always okay to call your local office and say, what do you have for me right now? I mean, that's perfectly fine. And we appreciate talking to people and knowing what's on your minds. But you can also go to farmers.gov and look for the Working With Us tab and subscribe to emails and texts. We do not overly burden people with a million texts a day, no more than 2 a month. And you will typically get one bulletin from your state office and one from your county office in a month. So we try to really limit it to what's important, what's timely, what do producers need to know, and not, fill up your email or text app. And then if you have questions, I always give producers my email and phone number, and that's my government cell number, and I pick it up when a producer calls. So really feel free to reach out to me at any time. It really helps me to understand what producers are concerned about, problems that they're having with our programs, things that work, things that don't work. And a big part of my job is taking that information and running it up the chain in Washington, so our USDA leadership is aware of what's going on in Wisconsin also. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. Farmers.gov is another really good source of information. There are summaries on all programs. There are videos on how to do the login.gov process that I talked about earlier. So a really good and solid information there. And then, of course, your local FSA office is there to help you as well. And don't hesitate ever to reach out to them. So that's it for my slides, Emily.
Wonderful. Well, you covered a lot of information, a lot of great programs. So can you touch a little bit on why there's so many programs coming out of FSA?
Well, that is a good question. A couple of things. First of all, at the end of 2024, Congress passed a disaster relief bill that I touched on with the supplemental disaster relief, et cetera. And they targeted specific pots of money for specific types of disaster. So we rolled out a series of programs rather than waiting until we had one big program ready, which can take a year, to get a program that big up and running. We rolled it out in chunks. So over 2025, I think we rolled out 6 or 7, 8 maybe programs for producers. And it did get to be kind of hard to keep track of, but that's why. And in addition, we also had the Farm Bill provisions passed in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and we were rolling those out concurrently. So another good reason for farmers to sign up for the text or email options so they can stay on top of all this. I know PDP and commodity producer groups are also great partners for us in getting information out there to producers on these program signups. But I do think it's a great idea to sign up for the texts or emails to keep straight what's going on at FSA because it changes a lot.
And that's good. That's good to hear. So, what are your priorities specifically for Wisconsin FSA?
Well, my priorities are to serve farmers in the very best way possible, in a way that they would like, not necessarily what's convenient for the government. So that's why I'm so excited about these online options. It's really our future for FSA. It's so much more convenient for our producers, and it just kind of opens up a new world of conducting business with FSA. And I want to reiterate again and emphasize, if you're not interested in this and you like to go to your FSA office, that's fine too. So meeting producers where they are and recognizing that we have a new generation or two of producers who are very comfortable doing business online and would prefer to do their business with USDA that way.
Yeah, and that's great to hear. I know not everyone has the luxury. I work in a professional dairy producer's office. We're here in Juneau, Wisconsin, which Dodge County FSA is right down the road from us. So it's very convenient to go into the office, but a lot of farmers live not in the same town or city as their FSA office. So I'm happy to hear that the online options are a thing now. That's great. The modernization is wonderful. So Sandy, we covered a lot of information today. Is there one or two key takeaways you want to leave our listeners with before we depart?
I think keep an eye on announcements coming out of FSA, especially with respect to the base acre allotment, because that Wisconsin's could potentially gain a lot of our PLC base there. And otherwise, we're here. We love working with producers. I have to give a shout out to my county employees. They love agriculture. They love their producers in their counties, and they really have a heart for service. So you can rely on them that the information they give you is accurate, and we want it to be timely. So continue to work with them and just keep an eye on what's coming here in the next few months.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sandy, for your time today and for all of the important information for our farmers. And want to say thank you to everyone for joining us, as well as a thank you to our national partners with professional dairy producers who are with us year in and year out and make programs like the Dairy Signal possible. To learn about them, as well as all of PDP's premier suppliers, head on over to PDPW Prime to see all of our wonderful allied industry partners. Want to say thanks again for joining us and hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. If you're a basketball fan, the Badgers play in about 10 minutes. Wisconsin Badgers go Bucky. But hope you enjoy March Madness weekend. And we'll look forward to seeing you back here next week on the Dairy Signal. Bye now.